Yes. And as we bring this month to a close, wow, 5 Sundays in January, we have been really expanding our wisdom of faith and looking at those components. And Reverend Maggie and I decided that a nice aspect to kind of finish off this series is the idea of new beginnings. And so our talk title is Begin Again. Now, I know that, heck, we're heading into where there's a lot of new growth and spring. And growth always, well, I won't say always, growth often has growing pains with it. And I know that as I am experiencing change and growth, I also have to face those issues in me that are resistance to the growth. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a part of me that doesn't want to ever change because change is difficult. And I have to stop, remind myself that I'm free to choose. And when I'm ready, I can choose into beginning again. And so this is where we are today, and this is going to be an exciting talk.
It is. I love that. This is kind of the cherry on top of what we've talked about for the last month in being the month of faith. And it's a reassurance and an acknowledgement that we have all of the tools. We have the capabilities. We have our faith. We know how to pray and be active in our denials and affirmation. And then reaching for our dreams. When we reach for our dreams, we are claiming something new. And there is that tug of war of, but I like it here in my comfortable nest. And beginning again is in our nature each day. And a page out of nature shows us how we are expected to begin again, begin anew. And we can do it with ease and grace when we lean into our practices.
I love that. And we start with our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, who says, when the soul is ready for its next step in the upward way, a great change takes place, known as regeneration. Jesus referred to this when he said to Nicodemus, "Ye must be born anew." In one of its phases, the new birth is a resurrection. Mm-hmm. Now, to give you this, Charles Fillmore, in his wisdom, he called for our journey, the soul journey, as a journey of generation, degeneration, and regeneration. That's his whole interpretation of the Bible, is that whole process. And part of that is our aspect of being born anew. Mm-hmm. Now, new birth is, you could ask anyone, any woman who's given birth to a baby about the process of giving birth. And that's a reality. And yet it happens all the time. So there's a resurrection happening. Now, in our own personal journey, there's these moments when we must choose anew. Mm-hmm. A new job, a new house, a new store to go to, a new opportunity. It might even be what's in my life right now, the looking for a dog. And it's fraught with decisions and thoughts, and what about this, and puppy mills, and how do you decide? We have all those tools, as we've been talking about, and as we take those tools into our center, then we can choose, okay, I'm ready to begin anew. Begin again. The grace of this is that we're given each new day. We have faith knowing that when night falls, that day will come. The sun will rise. And with that, we get a new day to do what is ours to do.
I love that. I love the analogy that you brought in with being born, like literally physically being born. You know, taking that and running with it is we are conceived and we go through this generation of development in an incubator that is protected, and we are nourished and we are provided for in this sacred, holy place in the womb. And then we outgrow it. We can't become a driver. My 16-year-old is getting his license. He can't drive from the womb, so he has to exit it. And it is, sometimes our journeys in transition are quick, and sometimes they are long and they are painful. And that is the degenerative process. That is what we describe, what I find myself saying a whole lot lately is that my world crumbled around me. I feel like I'm standing on the head of a pin, waiting for that place to leap to next. Same thing in a womb. It cannot contain us for what we are meant to become. And it is painful for the person birthing, and it's painful for the baby to escape the womb. I mean, you have a head this big, hopefully not much bigger, and it still gets squeezed. And your skull is constructed in a way that is meant to be squeezed, and you can't breathe anymore. And you have to trust the process that on the other side of this, at the light at the end of this particular tunnel, I'm going to still be provided for. I'm still going to be equipped with what I need to breathe and have my needs met and start the process of regeneration, of transitioning from an embryo into a human being, into now an infant, and starting the process of growth and development all over again. We can't escape it. You can't stay in the womb forever. And we work really hard to recreate the comfort. We talked about that last week, about us being creatures of comfort. So it's particularly disruptive when we are feeling that pull of energy, when God is speaking and waking us up in the night, and we know that we are going to start all over again. And so when I start to meet that resistance, I'm reminded of this teaching, of all of the spiritual tools that we have within us. And so I'd like to share that from Myrtle Fillmore, Unity's other co-founder. And she says that from the beginning, all of the qualities and capabilities you need in order to make a perfect destiny, you have implanted in you. From the beginning, not just one beginning, the Fillmores knew that we were evolutionary, recycled beings, that we take what we learn from our generative process, and particularly when we break down, when things just start to fall away, you activate those power sources, the 12 powers within us, and we really become in alignment, in attunement with our Christ nature. And when we can do that, then we are deep in our faith, we're active in our imagination, and we are putting all of our power into a forward motion, not just the first beginning, not just the first breath, but each new beginning. And it's amazing to think at how expertly we begin again. We have begun again every single day from the moment we drew breath. Think about that for just a second. And when you breathe into that and realize what a champion you are, we are champions at starting again. Then we can start to let the worry fall a little bit by the wayside. Ask fear to speak a little less frequently and a little less loudly, and activate those 12 powers that we have within ourselves and our spiritual toolbox to see us through what is always, and I say this every single Sunday, it is for us. It is a universal law that God, the omnipresence and all-knowing, all being, is constantly working in our favor. We ride the ride, we stick in with our practice of spiritual growth, and we accept where we're going, and when we are birthed anew, we will again have everything we need, and immediately we're starting the process of starting over. What do you think?
I just love that, and I love this wisdom that's quite profound from Myrtle, because it is absolutely from the beginning, and I love the way she puts this. All of the qualities and capabilities you need in order to make a perfect destiny. We're not predestined. We're prepackaged to have everything we need to do whatever we call our perfect destiny. Mm-hmm. My perfect destiny may not be your perfect destiny. And God works through us with all that ability and capabilities that are innate within us to manifest it. And I know this may not be always within our frame of, oh, I just know I've got everything I need. because it's also part of the human journey to question and to evaluate and to compare and to contrast. And doesn't all of that make our world so full of texture? I mean, we live in the three-dimensional world, which there's depth and there's contrast and there's interest, the shadow and the light. Mm-hmm. And that gives our experience color and nuance, and we prefer certain things. We may prefer certain colors. We may prefer a lot of light, or we may prefer the shade. And as we discern those, what do we want? What do we like? What makes our hearts sing? The important thing is to ask, what next do I want to drink in? Mm-hmm. And there we have the potential to regenerate our very beingness and start again. So when we're doing all this beginning again, let's go back to Scripture and from Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 to 23. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. This is really just a rewording of that which Myrtle said in another way. Mm-hmm. The grace of God is always present, and every day, every moment, that's with us. And this is universal law. In fact, in my training, metaphysically, whenever we're looking at Scripture, you could always place the word Lord with the word law. So this would be the steadfast love of the law never ceases. The law mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. So seeing it in that light, the law is that if I remain steadfast in my faithfulness, in my ability to perceive, my ability to know that I have what I need to step into the unknown, because we never really know the outcome. And from this, we're one with God, and God's energy moves through us. It's the law.
And I love that a law works the same for each and every one of us, whether we're working it or not. So whether we're in alignment with our faith and we're just thrilled about the idea of starting something new or not, the same love is still what is in action for the benefit of our outcome and our inevitable soul agreement and our soul growth to reach that point where we have said, this is what I want to gain in my life. This is what I came here to be and who I came here to be in the world. And I just really appreciate this scripture because I am a champion warrior. Not a warrior like swords, worrier. And this reminds me that there is so much that I just don't have to worry about. I don't lay my head on the pillow at night worried that the sun's not going to come up for me the next day. In the divine law that is God, that sun rises right on time for the benefit of all of us every day, whether we have worried about it or not. So I just am reminded that our faith is our guide and that we benefit the ability to relax. And that is a measure of deep self-care, to just give it to God because it's working anyway. You can worry and it's still going to be in divine order, or you can be in peace and allow it to be in divine order and well rested and well nourished and ready to take on whatever is yours to do upon that new day. So I think that this is a huge value for us to remember. If you don't remember anything else, the exercising of your faith is a huge contributor to your ability to navigate change and beginning anew again in peace. And we can wrestle with the angels and know that still divine law, the same gravitational law, gravity works for you the same it does for me, is at work and in our favor for the highest and best in all circumstances and for all involved. So I really want to just switch to what we have next this is from Sig Paulson and Rick Dickerson, Unity ministers and authors, where they said that you become tuned in to God and you obtain your energy and power from this one source. This then becomes the new birth, the new creation, the new creature. And what I extract from this wisdom is the reminder that every time I choose again, every time I remember and make a conscious choice to act in principle, to allow for my faith in God to lead the way, I am being born anew. Like, we are not immune as Unity ministers from being human beings. It wasn't you get ordained and now you don't have to be human anymore. It's you get ordained and now everybody's going to watch how you be human. So to be real honest is I forget that God's in charge. And when God shows up to bless my life, I want to sometimes argue with it, and I'm really good at that too. And when in New Thought, we say we have the ability to choose a new thought. And it is only my perception of how easy things can be and how difficult a new beginning might be. So when I realign and become in tune with that one power and one presence, that energy source, I need to choose a new thought. Except that I have become a little wiser and not needed to fight for so long for what is inevitable in divine law, and accept that each time we do that, each time I do that, I am a new creature. I am born anew. I have learned anew, and I have developed a deeper faith and a new willingness to share with each of you how I struggle. We've talked about how we both struggle, and sharing that with you on our journey is a blessing and a gift. So starting anew. It's my favorite. How about you?
Well, and here we are on the precipice of you starting a new job and going to Florida and leading your own ministry at Christ Church Unity in Orlando as senior minister. Now, the way this works for us is we can actually see the example we've had in Reverend Maggie. When she first came to us as an intern, still in school, all that knowledge and book learning and great teachers, and she came to us new, ready, willing, stepped into a new beginning. And then as that relationship and all aspects of the ministry, it has before our eyes, you've grown into a full-fledged minister. You became ordained in this process, but in reality, we saw your ministerness, your ability to convey a message, to admit when you've been wrong and step into truth is wonderful for us to see because we've seen that growth and that evolution. That's the new birth. That's the new creation. And then we get to celebrate that you get to step into the role that you've envisioned for yourself. Because we see the vision, and it all takes daily renewal of an idea to let it grow, like planting a seed, or having a child, or having a pet, or having people over for dinner and having the meal come out on time. It's all part of that putting what we know into practice and then doing what we need to do. Beginning again is living. It's not something to be afraid of. It's just being human. A human being is going to begin anew. And there we have this acknowledgement of beginning again in this relationship that we have as we step into our new way of being when Maggie's no longer here. But the arc of that process of helping support a new minister become a minister has been beautiful. And so this is that part of our journey, and we're grateful. And then we feel whatever we need to feel, because every new beginning is also a new ending. And we accept all of it because we're one with God, and we have the tools to tune in and have whatever we need to do whatever we need to do.
We do.
Step out on the water, release your faith. Every step is strong.